If you have any doubt whether or not you have a strong-willed child, when you get to the age where you're teaching them how to drive, you will know for sure.
So, Eric, you have experience with that.
Yes. Yes, it's very stressful teaching them how to drive. And when you've got the strong-willed child and you butt heads with them in that closed context where you're scared stiff because they've got control of the car, it's not an easy journey.
Family Life Australia presents Marriage and Family Life, a program of practical advice and encouraging stories to bring you hope and to enrich your marriage and family life.
Today on Marriage and Family Life, we're talking about the unique challenges of parenting the strong-willed child. And our guests today, once again, Dr. Ian and Dr. Helene Richardson. Welcome back to the program.
Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you.
And now your background, you're trainers, counselors, and most importantly, parents of 5 children. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Of those 5 children, any strong-willed children?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Shaking your head, yes.
Yes.
So this is a topic that you've not only studied in books, but again, reality.
Yeah. And in some ways, I think each of our children have been strong-willed, but all in different ways.
Okay, well, we'll talk about the different variations of strong-willed children, but I thought we'd start off with a story that we could all relate to. And, you know, if somebody's wondering, well, what does a strong-willed child act like? Well, I think your story here will answer that question.
It began one Sunday morning, Eric. It was time to go to church.
Everything happens right when you're about to go to church, doesn't it?
It does.
Especially when you're the pastor.
Everyone was in the car except one child. Happened to be an adolescent at the time.
Oh, adding to it.
So I went back inside. It's time to go to church. Just be there in a minute, Dad. Just got to brush my teeth. There's no time to brush your teeth. It's time that we go to church. What do? Go and brush their teeth. I said, come on, hurry up. It's time we were gone. Just a minute, Dad. Want a glass of water? There is no time for a glass of water. We've got to go to church. By this time now, my blood pressure is starting to rise a little bit. So what do? Go and get a glass of water. I said, hurry up, down to the car. I just want to put my shoes on, Dad. And I really lost it. Now, the trouble is, when I start to lose it, I don't get my words out properly. My brain gets a little bit confused. That's the sort of thing that anger does for you. And so I just let this child have it. But the trouble is, when I let them have it, it sort of came out all somewhat garbled and confusing. And they just stood there and laughed at me.
Then he had to preach.
Then I had to go to church and preach. I was the pastor. You can't be late when you're the pastor.
So this safely could be an example of don't let this happen to you, I guess we could say.
It will happen to you.
It will happen to you. Yes. Okay, so let's kind of see. One of the things we can learn from that story is some of the characteristics of the strong-willed child.
Wanting their own way.
Resistance,
yes.
Okay, and if somebody's listening today saying, well, I don't know, is my child a strong-willed child or not? What should they look for to determine whether or not their child is a strong-willed child?
Sometimes I think it's the strong-willed child will push their way and make themselves heard and resist anything that the parents want them to do or anybody else want them to do, and they become very demanding. Sometimes they're very compliant and quiet, but the stubbornness is there, and whilst they don't openly resist, you know the resistance is there, and it's just like dragging them along. And the more you pull, the more drag there tends to be.
I guess the typical picture of a strong-willed child is as a toddler, you say, no, don't touch that. That's hot. And a compliant child will go, oh, okay, it's hot. They might have touched it once and go, yeah. But the strong-willed child will go back and will go back and will go back. Will test you out and test you out and test you out. You can put an object high up on a cupboard to get it out of their reach just so they can't touch it. They will pull a chair up, climb up on it. And so that's kind of the strong-willed child. I will have that.
I will
no
do
matter
what
you
I
say.
Want. I will have what I want regardless.
Now, a parent, especially if this is your first child, will think, oh, I must be a bad parent because look at my child won't even obey. But this is kind of that nature versus nurture. Is this kind of a given?
Yes, they're born that way.
It's part of their personality makeup, which we can direct in a positive way or we can allow to go in a very negative way. I guess I could even say we can direct in a negative way, because if you handle them inappropriately, as it were, you will tend to push them down the side of rebellion. Whereas if you are able to listen to them and work with them and guide them in the midst of their strength, they can actually become really wonderful, wonderful people who are strong leaders in their own right, but caring and going in a good direction.
But getting to that point,
It's the consistency with your boundaries and being loving in your consistency and persisting with them.
And as parents, we have to be willing to take the flack that comes from them.
Because you
without
get the
feeling
tantrums.
rejected. Yes.
Toddler tantrums, teenage tantrums, not much different,
Adult
really.
tantrums.
Yes.
We carry the traits with us. We just do it in different ways.
okay, people listening today are saying, yes, I definitely have a strong-willed child. So
Maybe they're saying I've got a strong-willed wife.
or husband. That's another hot topic. Let's stick with the child today. So let's give some practical help to the parent of the strong-willed child. What should they do to help with these unique parenting challenges?
First thing you think about is picking your battles. Some battles aren't really worth winning and others are. So matters of life and death, they're worth winning and they will challenge those. As to what colour toothbrush or what colour jumper they wear, probably not a battle worth trying to go through to the death. It's probably better to give them a choice and just let them go with what they want with that.
Okay, so if the child is wanting to cross the street because they're a stubborn, strong-willed child, well, no.
That's right.
They're not going to get
And
their way
you
there.
might hold on to them very tightly amidst the tantrum.
You might be hanging onto them with all arms and everything around them, with them kicking, screaming, red in the face and whatever, but you hang on to them.
Because it's for their safety.
Okay, so it sounds like one of the very important things you need to do as a parent of a strong-willed child is really be firm about your boundaries.
Yes. And know what your own boundaries are. Know what reasonable boundaries are for the child, because sometimes I think with a strong-willed child, the parents go the opposite direction and become so tight, so rule-bound to try and control their child that they actually drive their child into rebellion. So it's about having a realistic perspective of life, training the child right from the cradle to make wise decisions and thoughtful decisions rather than reactive decisions. And so part of that can be giving them choices rather than telling them what to do. Often in our process, we identify what we think the child needs without understanding what the child's real needs are, and we can impose our desires on the child and create even more conflict. Definition of a jumper is what a child has to wear when the mother gets cold. It's not necessarily a need of the child, and to impose it on the child, and particularly a strong-willed child, could create an unnecessary fight. So it's identifying what is the need of the child and what are the boundaries that are there, and how can I help my strong-willed child to make their own decisions but yet not realise that I'm still in control of this.
Yes. And I'm going to go back to the consistency too, because if you say, no, you can't do that, and then the next time you go, no, you can't do that, and then a third time ignore it, they go, it's worth trying that.
Oh, yeah.
And being inconsistent is a much stronger reinforcer of behaviour than actually letting them do it all the time. So letting them not do it and then not do it and then letting them do it is worse than actually letting them go right from the start, because they will push harder and harder. If there's a chance that you will give in, they'll push.
Every child knows where the parents' buttons are, but particularly the strong-willed child, and they will push to the nth degree because they know they will win.
Yes.
Because with all children, but more so with the strong-willed child, there's this power struggle going on continually.
So you just don't give in. If you've said no, then you don't give in, and you don't give in the next time either. You reinforce that decision that you've made.
So I would come back to us as parents of a strong-willed child need to know what is realistic, what is good, what is appropriate, so that we're not setting up the no's on things that don't matter, allowing flexibility in the things that really don't matter, so that the child at least is able to express their own will, but in the things that do matter, we're able to hold our ground, even when they say, I hate you.
So that's something you have to be prepared for and not
Yes.
take personally.
Yes.
They're just trying anything they can to get their way.
At that point
At
in
that
time, they're
age.
really mad at you. And the appropriate answer is, that's okay, I still love you.
Now, it sounds like you really, really have to be on the same page as parents, because they're
Yes.
going to know this whole game of playing the one
Yes,
yes.
they
off
do.
the other.
Yes.
They
Yes, do.
read their parents exceptionally well, even from a toddler. And the strong-willed child will very quickly pick up the problems between mum and dad and will not only play one off against each other, but they will actually set things up to watch mum and dad start to kill themselves.
Oh, boy.
Stand back and laugh at it.
Yes.
Because they know that in doing that, they'll be able to do whatever they want. Because mum and dad will be so busy fighting each other, they won't even know what I'm doing.
They're very clever.
Yeah. Now, to be fair to the strong-willed child, at this point, the parent could say, I just wish I had that compliant child like my friends have, or that other child I have. That's a bad trap to fall into.
Yes, because that compliant child can be just as rebellious, just as headstrong, but they do it in such a nice way, in such a compliant way that they fool you.
Or they watch the strong-willed child in the family and go, I won't do it that way. I'll just do it this way, very quietly.
But still get their way.
Yes.
Oh, the challenges as parents.
Our adult children have now told us this is the way it worked.
See, you have the advantage of you've
Yes,
been
we
through
can-
this valley.
Yeah, we did, and we're getting their input now into what really happened back then.
And now it's seeing the grandchildren.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so let's not leave the parent of a strong-willed child depressed here. What are some of the redeeming values, the great things about the strong-willed child?
They make great leaders when they're guided in the right direction, when they have values that they've based their life on, and we can't impose values on them. We can only model values, and our children will pick up on our model, and they will watch how our values work in our life, and if they see it work in us, they will adopt those values, and that strong-willed child can become a great leader of others, take great responsibility in life, in all sorts of realms, make great citizens.
So just hang in there.
Or
Yes.
they can end up in prison.
Channel them the correct
So
way.
we channel them the right way. I don't want to go back to the negative. We want to stay on the
That's right,
positive
that's right.
side
We
of
wanna go
here.
on the positive.
But it's about how we model to them and how we relate to them and the skills that we teach them along the way, teaching them how to make decisions, teaching them how to relate to other people, teaching them how to understand others, teaching them how to communicate, teaching through our own modelling, teaching them how to think through issues.
It's interesting now watching what we've modelled now being modelled with our grandchild. And one of them was, my daughter said, I hated it when you made me finish things. She liked starting things and hated finishing things. But now she's teaching her child to finish things.
Now, talk about poetic justice. Your strong-willed children, I'm guessing, have children, their own children, who are strong-willed. Is that right? A little dose of their own medicine?
But they seem to be managing it very well.
Oh, that's good. We're speaking with Dr. Ian and Dr. Helene Richardson about the unique challenges of parenting a strong-willed child, and we'll have more insights for you right after this on Marriage and Family Life.
You're listening to Marriage and Family Life, presented by FamilyLifeAustralia.com. If you'd like to hear this program again or recommend it to a friend, you'll find it on the media player under the radio and podcast tab at FamilyLifeAustralia.com.
And welcome back to Marriage and Family Life, where we're talking about the unique challenges of parenting the strong-willed child. And once again, our guests are Dr. Ian and Dr. Helene Richardson. Ian is a doctor in ministry, majoring in counseling